Hello everyone. Our first TheFoilGuy live stream. Let's see if everything's going swimmingly. I'm just going to do a little audio check here, make sure that our dialogue with each other is as productive as it is received. So the routine in the hopes that you all can hear me. Let's see here. Yay. Great. We're all set. Yeah, so in the hopes that you all can, of course, hear me, the next few hours, we're going to try and go for two this round and see whether or not that is productive for us in the future or not. I'll be keeping an eye on the comments and we'll be just taking requests live as they come in. So to, of course, start us off, for those of you who are new to the channel, I'm TheFoilGuy, and I can make anything that you can think of out of aluminum foil. I'll be happy to take any requests and, of course, be as specific as possible. I'll be happy to look things up off screen while we are all here together. And I'll look forward to seeing where all of this ends up taking us, because as you may imagine from the channel, I don't like my ideas. I like as much creativity from other people as possible, and especially to bless individuals. So to start us off, the missus actually wanted to begin with a request for a Disney princess, specifically Princess Cinderella. So I'm just going to get her picture up here for reference. Hopefully in the near future I'll figure out other live streaming software and that will enable us to maybe have a dual screenage. But for right now, feel free as we're making these sculptures to leave any requests that you have in the comments, and I'll be happy to go back and forth with details. So let's get started. Obviously, if you know my techniques and probably are used to these videos, I'll be talking over a lot of the crinklage, but we're not obviously doing a lot of live action muting here. So, and no background music either. I'll be starting with the traditional body frame, and then we'll work the dress out from there. Maybe some of you'd want a version of Cinderella that includes her in her pre-ball gown outfit, but I assume that the Cinderella that's being requested here is going to focus more on the royal ball. It's actually funny. My wife is a diehard Disney princess fan. She's more a fan of Aurora more than anything else, but whenever we end up watching the original Disney films, it actually more often than not ends up being Snow White, which is probably one of the more easier ones to appreciate, not just because they did that whole movie by hand. Drawing that, it makes this seem like light work, but also the very positive message that one Google search would turn into something very morbid, but what wouldn't that be true about? So, starting with the over curl and the headband here. More of you are joining. Thank you all for following the link. And of course, advertise this at 1 o'clock. We started about 2 minutes in. So by all means, feel free to depart and rejoin at your leisure. These sculptures in person, for those of you who aren't used to extended periods of time with the videos, I'll obviously try to keep you entertained with conversation and dialogue. But the general time for these are going to be about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the level of detail. I speed them up for the benefit of my audience's attention span. So if you are unable to stick around, do not worry. It will not make me feel bad as long as the finished product is pleasing to you. And for those of you who aren't joining me based off of referrals from my other social media platforms, I will be taking photos of this after the live stream is over and uploading them to the other social media sites. So there's issue hearing that and talking over. I will be happy to repeat that information, but don't worry, we will have these preserved for posterity's sake. Very curious thing about the French and general Western European attire. These little shoulder buns are all about. I know you probably see them more in the modern day from prom dresses, but I always get curious about whether or not something actually. I'd imagine those of you who are in the fashion world are screaming at me probably right now. Feel free to let me know in the comments. I always love learning new things, especially when it comes to inspiration and ideas for more sculptures. That gives me the chance to try new things and learn different techniques and approaches. When do you guys have favorite Disney characters? Mine's obviously Mulan because I'm a dude. He's the highest kill count than any other one. But oh, forgot they'll probably take down the stream because I didn't say unaliving. Nevertheless, she is awesome. Another funny thing too is after being married to a Disney princess fan or going to Disneyland itself a lot more often, and she collects those pins that have become almost an economy in of themselves. I find it very cute, and I've taken on to collecting pins, not just of the Disney variety, but any others. We grabbed a cork board from Hobby Lobby and pinned them up on the wall for our little collection. I think it's cute. But noting that there's definitely a market for trading these things. It brings me back to my childhood where Pokemon cards were where it's at. And that's before the scalpers got a hold of them. Still, going into all of the fingers for her full-length glove, and then just a little pinch across her bicep to show where the glove ends. There we go. Okay, so we're working from the top down here. Always set and improvise. Oh boy. So, continuing on. Let's see, is that a collar there? Yes, that is. Let's see if we can get that detail standing out. Why does her hairband keep coming apart? Cinderella's not cooperating with me. I'll just put this on later. Thank you all again for joining this stream. Just a note and repeat, I'll say this as often as I have to, but requests are open as per the title. So by all means, leave any request that you have. And note, if I have done it before, that is not forbidden. I'd be happy to remake sculptures. And if there is a request that you already have made that I've put on the list that you'd like to see made during the stream, that just saves me time. So by all means, leave your requests. We will be happy to govern this. The first sculpture set request is going to be that of Cinderella. So by all means, as we are going through these and in your requests, I will once again and again repeat this as often as I can as we see more and more people joining us. As I was saying, the Disney pin phenomenon, definitely comparable to a lot of the other stuff that I've seen as far as things that people are fascinated by, and not just in terms of whether or not they can get good deals on trading, and always knowing there's generally two kinds of individuals in any hobby: those who are interested in the most valuable and the most rare, or those that are interested in just the stuff that they like. And if you're curious, I'm definitely the latter, collecting any of the characters that suit my fancy. Usually if they're from Disneyland and of that brand, it's the Star Wars variety, but Mrs. likes to be a blessing to me, so I make sure that she knows every time we go just to be able to grab something so she doesn't think she's the only one getting spoiled. It's funny though, noting all the various treats and restaurants. People have made entire YouTube careers off of this. I'm referring, of course, to the Disneyland layout as a whole, people reviewing all of the various seasonal foods, all of the new merch. It's certainly something more than I would bargain for, and I'm in a lot of extensive hobbies myself, so I'm probably the last person to be able to talk about this. I think that looks right. As I recall, compared to her stepsister, she has tiny feet. appealing in French culture, from what I assume. I don't know. I'm not French. Nonetheless, you all familiar with the original Cinderella fairy tale, Brothers Grimm version, obviously. I know that there's a inspiration from an older Greek myth where girls' shoes get stolen and then an Egyptian monarch discovers it and then wants to find her. There is some inspiration from that, but in terms of the actual Cinderella, the Brothers Grimm popular version made a very interesting point about as much preserved character as justice in the end. Wicked Stepsisters definitely got theirs. But what I really enjoyed was that the Cinderella live action one actually drew some inspiration and references from the original account of the Brothers Grimm. I appreciated the attention to source material. Always love it when people do their homework. No, can't read everything, but what I do, I recognize as an effort. Wanting to match material as close to the original fans would appreciate. It's the same kind of mindset I try with these sculptures and paying attention to some of the minor details and doing a bit of reading, unless it's, too dark or sus or something like that. Let's see if I can get a flowing motion that'll show the glass slippers. That was another funny thing when we watched the live action one for the first time, and they went out of their way to mention that the glass slippers would magically be quite comfortable. I fully appreciated that because the semantics of it are always amusing to me. Dancing in glass shoes doesn't sound very effective. Continuing with these hip accents. Won't think much into that. Cinderella, Cinderella, night and day it's Cinderella. Okay, say that we're making good progress. We'll get her headband now on here since I'm not going to be wiggling her around as much. Very good. Very good. Well, start off with Princess Cinderella. So, starting off with that, I want to make sure that you see I'm watching this on my phone to keep track of the comment section here, but there is a set delay. So we'll start with Cinderella, and let me know if you find this acceptable for those of you fans of the franchise. So, second request. I do have a set backlog, but I'll be giving priority to those in the comments. Let me know if there is anything else you would all like. Seems if there's a bit of a lull at the time of this stream, so why don't I get into our backlog here? Obviously set starting for Disney princesses, and by the way, I have another request for Sleeping Beauty, aka Princess Aurora's whole castle, the infamous Disneyland castle, as that was the time the park was released and the main attraction to advertise it. But that obviously would be an effort and a half, and could probably dedicate a whole live stream to that one if we let ourselves. So I will hold off on that for either its own video or for a future date. I was fascinated by this request that was made for an Archon, or specifically the Archon skin for the Egyptian god Ra, and this was from the video game Smite. Now, knowing the source material, obviously there's no shortage of morbidity into that, but always being a fan of sculpting angels, I never want to miss an opportunity to do something that fills that sort of seraphim-esque archetype. So why don't we do that? First request was Cinderella. Let's do the Archon skin from Smite 2, specifically for Ra. And note, again, those of you watching the stream in the comments, leave any requests. They are always free. and welcomed. And leave as many details as you can. I'll be able to look them up for site references. So, with the Archon, which interestingly enough comes from Plato's, or is it Aristotle's, one of those Greek philosophers' books, Timaeus, his speculations on the afterlife. Let me start with that staff. That one seems to be probably the one that has the most details in this whole mess. All right. Interesting little curve into that, too. Archon. Man, I'm going to just keep messing it up and saying it's the Archon staff as opposed to Ra's staff. Definitely mixing their metaphors here. The Egyptian mythology and the Greek term for Archon, it was a iteration or a extension of Sophia, which just literally translates as wisdom. Reading about all that stuff, the Nag Hammadi library has a copy of it. The contents are trippy, I'll just say that much. But nonetheless, always a fan of creative, artistic design. You need to join in. I also enjoy when I get the chance to have some appreciation for the people that throw their own 2 cents worth in for other archetypes, things like the snake woman I did some time ago, Persian mythology, the very interesting renditions of the seraph, Hebrew theology, and the other issues I get into along the way. I'm always a fan of being able to not just credit other artists, but get to kind of join in on their creativity, being able to bless people who were impressed by that work too, because I wouldn't have been made aware of it unless someone else pointed it out to me. We'll see what ends up being worth in the long term, but hopefully in the short, it's a compliment to the artist rather than stealing their thunder. Not that most of these get a lot of views anyway. Just focus on the one person that wanted to see it. That's, we all keep our head above water. Seems like there's a split here. By the way, for those of you watching the stream, and feel free to throw your 2 cents worth if any of these topics are applicable to you in the chat box, but the video game Darksiders, I was asked to make a couple of those, and as a request from a friend to play them for myself, I enjoyed the references to Hebrew and Christian theology, but the characters and the themes, they got them all mixed up. Did like the theatrics though, and I thought the writing on the third one was the most effective, but calling back to the classics for those of us who were there from the beginning. I started with the War Mastered edition for Darksiders 1, and man, I thought the puzzles in God of War were time consuming. There's some points where you just get to places in the game where you're stuck and have to look up tutorials, and not just in the sense of hitting a wall or needing tips or tricks like playing a Dark Souls, game. But I'm sure the response to that is just get good, as is usually explained by those who paid the piper on those. Another one that I found that has a definite learning curve where you certainly have a tough time at first, but once you learn the trick is never forgotten. Those older Mega Man games, especially some of the ones that were less than appealed to, Mega Man X7, where they were kind of testing out all of the new 3D mechanics, where up until that point it was just a two-dimensional, almost a platformer game of sorts combined with a shooter. But now the techniques for how you approach the boss, you find what works, you learn the different types of weapons and elements, and kind of flows over into the Darksiders mindset where you get definitely frustrated in your first playthrough, but then the second time it just flies. Unless, of course, you're like me and your chances of revisiting those things are few and far between. And the second chance you get, it's all but out your head anyway. I don't see any legs on this guy, so I guess we'll just assume. I like the hood effect, though. What it reminds me of, too, not just in terms of the history behind it, it reminds me of the rendition of the angels from that MMORPG Diablo. The way they put the angels is just those hidden heads, empty voids under their hoods unless they took it off. I know Tyrael appeared in one of the trailers. Never played the game myself, but I always found that aesthetic pretty cool. Noting in the Bible the emphasis for the kind of angels you want to interact with, they don't like drawing attention to themselves, so kind of got one right as far as the design team goes. Although I'm told by fans of the franchise that the peak of Diablo character design was in Diablo 2. The third one where they made it female was a little cringy. Again, these are not my opinions. This is passing on what I've received, but I was asked one time to make a very, very large rendition of the main villain Diablo. And he was real chunky, muscular, as opposed to the feminine one that was released in Diablo 3. Found it a very interesting challenge. They wanted to give me extra time, but the whole project satisfied me after about 4 hours. Never heard back from that guy. Actually got the request while he was serving us at a restaurant. He was a very nice individual. And a chance to run into him again, and apparently it got destroyed. That's another thing I want to just toss out there for the general audience. We're looking to find a way of making this more permanent and durable, since I obviously know how to make a lot of finer details, but that these things can over time absorb a lot of water and dust, and they end up losing their unique shapes and forms. Trying to find something that we could apply to it that would be clear, cost effective, and more of a preservative agent. And don't feel bad if I tell you I've already tried it, because I've been trying a lot of things. We tried clear epoxy resin for brushing it over, but it just ended up being goopy and taking away from the major details, as well as requiring kind of an art form in of itself to properly support it, and the smell was not appreciated. We tried different kinds of super glues, but the only ones that did work were in such small quantities that it ended up not being effective in the long term, especially for some of the more substantive sculptures. We've got the kinds of efforts regarding this spray that was meant to provide layering to, I believe it was refrigerators and stuff. I was told that that would be clear, but it ended up just making it kind of matted. By the time that it made it thick enough, it was also applied so thickly that it wasn't good for much. You couldn't tell what was sculpted in the first place, except for a very chalky looking blob. There's other efforts we made regarding certain chemical compounds, even kind of paint that was supposed to be sprayed and applied as a weather preservative towards playground equipment, I think it was, and that didn't work either. So if any of you know something that would be cheap to support and easy in terms of something clear, probably in an aerosol can form, I could spray onto these things, that gain you a lot of favor and open up a lot of doors for other people to be blessed by this as well. As far as I'm concerned, this is a very casual medium, not something that we really want to make money off of. I can tell if this channel not monetized, no ads, at least while I still have the option to refuse ads. My other channels, they put ads on without even telling me. What up with that? 4 unskippable ads. Never a more diabolical scheme inflicted upon the world of men. Alright, got some side guards here. There was a term for this in medieval armor. See, here I go, wanting to first know about what the shoulder puffs look like on French traditional dresses as portrayed in Disney films. Now I'm curious about the little hip guards that you see here on fictional video game characters and RPG notes. Nonetheless, let's see here. I don't know what that jewel is. For those of you who play Smite 2, feel free to let me know about any of these finer details as they're being sculpted too. I'm always fascinated by the creative licenses people tend to make, and if they end up catching something that I have read about them, well, that just gets them some cool points in my book. Maybe even will encourage me to want to play the game and catch the other times they honored the source material properly. And I know the irony behind that is so thick you can cut it with a knife, because there's plenty of other games I've played that have not done justice to the source material, yet nevertheless were decent stories. I probably blame the memes more than anything else, otherwise I would have never played God of War. The originals, man, couldn't touch those until I was good and mature anyway, and by that point everything just came across as immature. But noting for appropriate audiences, I still enjoy seeing how creative writers either disappoint or deliver. And that I will leave to their actual fans. Okay, so unlike Cinderella, we're starting from the bottom and working ourselves up. It'll also be interesting as if this kind of niche material, the designers of the game were to notice these things and say, hey, this guy sculpted out of aluminum foil. How about that? Is that how it's looking so far? If I end up missing any details, then by all means, stone and accuse me. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks kind of like the serif detail. We'll work on the second pair of wings since it looks like we'll have to attach those at his hips. By the way, you don't know what's real note of cringe for me. Maybe this is just because I read so much, but when I just see an internet meme kind of gaining traction that misrepresents something, it slowly becomes a pet peeve of mine, not because I'm the guy in the comments that points it out, but just every single time I see a quote-unquote fan doesn't bother to look up details about it, the biblically accurate angels, when those aren't angels, there's cherubim, and people who think the Ophanim are a thing when they would just look up and see the word just means eyes, referring to that palanquin in Ezekiel chapter 1, and what a palanquin is. Even the use of terms like karma, I suffered having to read the Bhagavad Gita because I'm just a silly little American trying to follow the flow of arguments, finally being able to grasp it, and people still treat it as if it's a good or evil justice system. Nonetheless, we can move on with our lives when it comes to whether or not people read up on the etymology of something, but nonetheless, Jensen TWP, thank you for the kind words. Making a girl out of it. Well, this sculpture is a specific character. This is going to be the Egyptian god Ra from Smite 2, the Archon Skin. That's going to be from an interesting crossover in Greek philosophy. But Luci from Disenchantment. Let me look that up. That will be next on our to-do list. Luci Disenchantment. While we're all set, is it the black and white character that kind of looks like a Simpsons character, but with the Egyptian, or not the Egyptian, the Roman pan-looking thing? If I am getting the general idea, feel free to let me know. Anything that I should be aware of about this character before continuing on with it? Note that going on this, I'm not going to be discouraged. I can probably tell the Luci is shorthand for Lucifer, and the kind of impish look Netflix specials and stuff, they're just going to have him like a Bill Cipher antagonist. Is that about right? Got references set in Futurama-esque drawings too. This is just on a Google search, so by all means inform me as much as you can. We got time. Continuing on, what are we talking about? Oh yeah, just pet peeves of seeing a bunch of terms used that I took the time to learn, and then expecting the fact that I've read up on something that means that everyone else has. It's certainly a grace issue that I'm learning to work out. Nonetheless, knowledge of flaw is the first step in dealing with it, right? Ooh. Disenchantment. I wonder what show that's about. I see the Netflix sub logo. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about the series itself. Is he supposed to be a main character or something? It looks like a disgruntled worker. Well, fun fact for this. Thank you, Jensen. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, the shorthand Luci, that in reference to something demonic for Lucifer, that's a name that means morning star or son of the morning. It's a description of the negative archetype in Christianity and Judaism before his fall. So when, say, for example, watching Cinderella and you see the the cat being named Lucifer set in his evil state, the irony isn't lost on me that the references before the fall, that Lucifer was when the devil was nice. Now, the cat bearing his nice name was not so aptly demonstrated, but had a conversation with my wife about him, and she made the comparison of Bruno being an example of the Archangel Michael, chief prince, is what that translates to as. And according to, I believe it's Isaiah 28 and Ezekiel 14, maybe switch those around, the reference to Lucifer as a cherub, those guys with the eyes everywhere, skins like coals of fire and all that kind of stuff. It was an interesting comparison, because regardless of people who try to claim to write books about this stuff, I took some professional courses on Hebrew and Christian angelology, and man, not just an inspiration for sculptures, but it's kind of one of those sobering reminders of how little we actually know about those things and the phenomenon that they're associated with. And not like in the sense of like reading Norse pagan sources, where it's just they don't have anything really to offer us in terms of actual writing material. So most either just had to go with what was the most popular or fill in the gaps according to what we could assume about their culture, because they just never bothered to write anything down. But the intentional ambiguity that the kind of angels you'd want to hear from are more interested in focusing on Hashem, or the Lord God, and those that don't, obviously aren't valuable pieces of information. You can get into all the pseudepigraphal stuff, that means false author, and it ends up just being a whole mess of speculation. And when it comes to difference between theologies and mythologies, things that actually point or for scriptural insight into the divine, and people who you couldn't test as to whether they were actually speaking from the gods. I just enjoyed the opportunity to exercise some humility about all these things. Oops. Being able to say, hey, whatever these guys were seeing, it's enough to overload their senses in a unaltered state. So, what much more does that say about the people who saw the big kahuna? Personal demon. What a part of the show, referencing Jensen TWP, the personal demon aspect. Is that like the Zoroastrian idea of having like a shoulder devil and a shoulder angel, and that kind of getting co-opted into Islam and later Christian Catholic traditions? The kind of moral dilemma or dualist idea, is he one of the negative ones, and there's another character on the other side kind of countering his influence? You guys want to laugh and not have to worry about internet filters or anything like that. There was an amusing illustration of this done by the YouTube channel Studio C, and granted, they're an LDS group. BYU sponsors them, but in spite of that, they do, especially in some of their earlier work, have a lot of really good and well written and executed, by the way, comedy sketches like Scott Sterling and all that stuff. The shoulder angel and the shoulder devil ones were really funny, especially the ones regarding the shoulder devil, because they, as a pseudo-Christian cult, they were borrowing from that idea of the devil kind of being the one to undermine and mock, and so they put one of their characters in a fat suit, and you'll catch the punchline as an ongoing theme in the shoulder angel and shoulder devil ones. And the way they were written, they're meant to kind of build off each other. They even have this basketball player come in, and I think y'all will like it. It's very clean comedy. My favorite, though, is Two Guys on a Scooter. I'll just throw that out there as well. Oh boy. All right, I've got a comment here. Well, Princess Tiabini is getting married. She doesn't want to, but the main thing of the show is she meets an angel. Yes, an elf called Elfo. There's an original name. And Luci and her mother gets revived, and she is evil with magic. Well, there's a premise. Netflix. What will they churn out next? Luci, disenchantment. So I assume just clarifications for the tags when I upload it as an individual video, or excuse me, a photo later on Tumblr, DeviantArt, Facebook, and Instagram, that just set labeled as a cartoon, that kind of stuff. Is it meant to kind of be pseudo-Christian Catholic, or is it more Celtic by what you're describing? Made by the same people who made The Simpsons and Futurama. Okay, that makes sense. I thought people were doing fan art. Does bear some resemblance to Mr. Burns. I'll just throw that out there. All right, got a second pair of wings here. For those of you just joining us, this is Archon Skin of the Egyptian god Ra from Smite 2. And correct me if I'm wrong, which I likely am, but I think they are producing a third one that hasn't been released already. I'd imagine it's inevitable if something's making money. Kind of the battle royale of all the different mythologies. It's fun to see those things being utilized more in media, because probably will inspire some, not all, but some, to maybe look up the source material, get educated, which I am a fan of. see here. It's got a Helios-like halo around his head. Those of you who don't know that, I was reading into that too. The inspiration for that kind of art in Christian literature came from the Greek sculptures of Helios. That was fascinating to note the kind of inspiration and crossovers that happen there, because the same theme is found in both religious worldviews. By the time the Jews were translating the Old Testament into Greek, the 70 that it was called, that's what Septuagint means, they obviously knew good art when they saw it. When later Christians came in and had the Jewish origins in their views of sacred scripture, there was a natural desire to want to express the same admiration. But as is the case with Judaism, they were demonstrating the most respect to Hashem by not making images. The Greek Orthodox, though, they basically preserved art in Europe through the centuries by taking anything and everything they could as inspiration, and Greeks and Romans would obviously play into that as well. Let me get this guy's hood here before I put on this halo. But the idea of obviously a divine figure projecting some form of light is pretty broad, and no one can really be accused of copying from anybody. But the way that would be more easily presented in paint and sculptures obviously isn't to find some way to harness light beams and then represent that in a physical medium. It was instead to just use what worked for other people. Not like they borrowed the theology or anything, but they were recognizing a good representation of the sun god in one sense that I'm surprised the Egyptians never got to first, but nonetheless, I guess they had so much sun there that they didn't have to bother. You know what this kind of reminds me of are those Jedi Sentinels from the Clone Wars, the way that their hoods came down like that. I first learned how to do this effectively when I tried to make those as a little guy. Littler. Clone Wars isn't that long ago. Although I do have to say that Star Wars Episode 2 was the first Star Wars movie that I ever saw in theaters, and I was young enough to not depreciate the dialogue. I was just interested in the sword fights and the chase scenes and all that fun stuff. I'd imagine my father was less than riveted when he was trying to laugh at the "I don't like sand" pickup line that resulted in the conception of Luke and Leia. Biblical names, by the way. Angel is incredible. It's very nice of you to say. Thank you. So, continuing on, let's see about his... I should do the arms first before the breastplate. He's got some pretty mechanical looking features here. I wonder where they got the inspiration for that. The rule of cool, I suppose, applies plainly. So, left arm here. Where his robe's at, so we don't need a breastplate. My high school algebra and geometry professor, he very dry sense of humor. He noted, he liked lazy math. He wanted to accomplish the most in the least amount of steps. And then he'd have this recurring joke where he'd say, "How many of you are lazy here? Who's the laziest in the class?" And he wouldn't raise his hand. He says, "See, I'm lazier than all of you," because I didn't consider raising my hand enough effort. But obviously, there's been ways that I've done sculptures in the past, and I found simpler ways to make something that looked just as good. And that, I think, is the most important key when it comes to my particular style, because when I'm making these things for people in person, if I can hold their attention long enough so that I'm not taking up too much of their time, then leaving with something that they can admire that looks good is just going to be an added benefit to that. Learn how to accomplish the most good with the least amount of steps. That's how I actually was, let's say, the turning point and to the level of detail that I could produce with these sculptures when I figured out how to make a face just by focusing on the nose. Everything else just kind of fell into place around it. Nevertheless, woo. Imagine how he gets around in these things. Let's do the under armor first, since that's going to involve more of his cloak than anything. Yeah, it's funny to me how mechanical this looks. I wonder if it's part of the gameplay or something when they involve Gnosticism. Gnosticism, for those of you who don't know, just mentioned earlier, the term Archon is from the Greek philosophy written in Timaeus regarding the nature of the greater divine, and obviously the personifications of the gods in nature, Zeus and Venus, which is Roman, but nonetheless Aphrodite, all that kind of stuff. They were kind of growing beyond that and acknowledge that there's probably something more cosmic than there is natural, or that pertains to nature on this planet. And so they came up with the idea of the personification of wisdom as the ultimate deity, and that everything that emanates from her is, Sophia is a feminine term, in these iterations called archons. So any manifestation of the divine would be considered the term that the developers of Smite used to describe these skins. And since obviously that was later adopted into the Christian heresy of Gnosticism, where they were reading Greek philosophy into Jewish theology, and formatting error showed up along the way, that's where ultimately this term became popularized. Just hold its staff of power. Now for that. Is that an eagle there or a lion? That looks like an eagle. I had to get two different reference photos for this because there's just so much detail on it. The Smite 2 display of the skin, just showing it from one angle, and then I got the concept art to show off all the more accurate designs, since the person who asked this was obviously interested in something more intricate, and always want to return that favor, even with the simple, is making sure that those finer details are pointed out. That's why Mr. Game & Watch and stuff oftentimes takes just as much effort as these guys, because simple things are going to stand out all the more if you miss those details. Just getting them right. Okay. Shoulder pads. Always a fan of the Gothic design. Very intimidating when you encounter guys with broad shoulders. A lot of emphasis on that in armor, not because shoulders are necessarily vulnerable, but because psychological warfare is a valuable asset. You get into someone's mind. That much closer to victory. All right, almost done here. And then we will get on to Luci. By the way, to the person, Jensen, who requested that, I'm curious, when you noted that the mother is evil, so would Luci, as a demon, which literally means an adversary, would he then be on the side of the mother, trying to influence that girl, or the terms just angel and demon kind of more neutral, like an anime where it's treated more as a species than a distinction between the same kind of thing. Very nice. Oh, let me, one more detail missing here. There's a little sash. There's a little arrow set on it. Am I fine with spoilers? Nah, I'm personally fine with them because I tend to watch TV shows for the sake of the message. So if someone explains to me the finer plot points and I can pay attention to them as they come along, then that makes me kind of appreciate the material more. But because you and I aren't the only ones watching this live stream, I would probably think that that would not be appreciated by some. So you can withhold that question if you don't mind for the sake of the rest of us listening. But follow me on any of the other social media platforms, or I can just look it up afterwards. I appreciate the consideration for other people, though. All right, so tighten his grip on his claws there. There we go. So that is the Archon skin of Ra from the video game Smite 2. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Very nice. All right. By the way, any of you want to see what has been done or make any number of requests, that is welcome. All right, so Luci from Disenchantment. Let's get to it. This one will be fairly straightforward. Just going into the old bifurcated tail here. Nonetheless, what else? The Futurama and Family Guy format, Simpsons and all that, the cartoons that have this kind of feature. It reminds me of this other cartoon. They unfortunately canceled it before the final season could be released, but it was called Final Space. It was done by a YouTuber named Olin Rogers. And for those of you who've been following recent news with Iron Lung and the back rooms, obviously YouTubers seem to be where quality entertainment is at in movies now. But this TV show, it got a little crude at some points, but it was very well structured around his style. And if you look up the YouTube channel Olin Rogers, the guy has a hilarious vernacular, and his stories of his childhood and early adult life are, you can't really replicate it. It's a very unique and exclusive personality. Ghost in the Stalls and Chuck E. Cheese are obviously where we'd recommend anyone to start. But yeah, no, check out Olin Rogers. He's a fantastic human being, just in general. You can always use more of those. But he's also very funny and very emotionally invested in his dreams. He just, like, within the last few weeks, was able to complete funding and publish the storyboards, essentially, of the last season he intended for the show after it got canceled, and put it into a graphic novel. And definitely recommend anyone who's curious about that kind of formatting to pick it up, because he definitely deserves the attention. He puts a lot of effort into it. He genuinely cares about people who support him, and always want to reward the kind of people that we would like to have more of in our lives. Set incentives and all that. All right, there's these little pointies. Symbols of power, not of evil, which, by the way, would encourage many people to appreciate more. Get some attention onto his eye here. I could probably use another layer. Nothing encourages me more than seeing this medium become more popular. And I've seen a couple people on Instagram and Facebook that have reached out to me and have been doing this for not quite as long as I have, but discovered it on their own and were happy to know that they weren't alone. And what I noticed is that everyone kind of has a different style or approach. Some of them use one whole sheet in order to make the sculpture, and then just through sheer tyranny of pressure and will, get the finer details into their sculptures, and it looks good. There's other people who kind of take my approach where I work kind of piecemeal. I get the main frame done, and then I just layer upon layer upon layer if I want to bring greater details out. Let's see if he doesn't seem like he's that two-dimensional, so let's make sure people can see his little fingers. How's that? Let me see if I can view it on the stream here. That's Luci from Disenchantment or Disenchant? Yes, Disenchantment. You're very welcome, Jensen. Thank you for the request. I'll be uploading a photograph of that to the social media platforms TheFoilGuy is under, so it can be enjoyed in posterity. Cool. Let me stretch my back a little bit. So how are you guys all doing? Got any other ideas or requests of things that you would want to see made, or should I dig more into my backlog here? Because good heavens, there is a lot. Got a, let's see, we've done something angelic, we've done something demonic. It's pretty much either or set in between. Maybe we can do something a little bit more neutral. What a cat. Got her. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I guess something intense or intimidating. There's a request that was made for Dead Hand from Ocarina of Time, one of the old Zelda games. Any of you guys interested in seeing that one? Obviously, the head's more intimidating than anything else, but I remember playing that game, and it was the claws that I was more concerned about. The realistic head face only added to it. Yeah, let's do that. So this will be Dead Hand from Ocarina of Time, and this will be the fourth we've been able to crank out in the last hour. And based off of my work, we will still be able to stream for another hour. I'll be logging off at 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, so that will give us opportunity for a lot. Boy. Now, Legend of Zelda, that's definitely some of us older gentlemen. Obviously, you know, Twilight Princess and Water Temple and all the other stuff. Thank you for joining us, Jensen. Appreciate the request. I will upload yours soon. Now, let's see here. Yeah, some of the older games and stuff, but what was the Tears of the Kingdom was the one that was pseudo recently. I know that another one's come out since, because Japanese game developers never sleep. At least they're not allowed to, apparently. Especially animators. You hear about the work conditions of these poor guys, the things they go through, and then see the cost of the product with things like One Punch Man Season 3. That was just tragic. Nevertheless, let's get these scary claws to reawaken my childhood trauma. But one wonders if that's like meant to be more of an octopus tentacle or something. I don't know. He's got a scary human head and realistic teeth. That is spooky. I think that set for certain holidays, maybe doing themed live streams closer to Halloween and having those kind of requests. But it seems like the majority of those who follow the channel were more interested in the diversity of topics, which again, that's the reason I founded the channel in the first place. I wanted as much creative input and insight as possible. I can do the one or two things that I find interesting, and the one or two individuals that are just like me will appreciate that. But I am more of the mind that I want to bless people, and that is usually done on their terms, the sort of things they are interested in. So you can see about in the future doing the sort of themed live streams when people are in the mood on certain holidays, but horror themed request would probably result in a lot of interesting conversations, not going into stuff like Artie the Clown from Terrifier, or what was it, Ghostface from Scream. A lot of possibilities, but also a lot of potential for some odd conversations. We'll leave that to its own devices, I suppose, when we get there. But nonetheless, it is fascinating for me to always see the sort of things people are into that I would never have known about were it not for putting myself out there for you guys like this. So know that you complete me. You are the reason I enjoy doing this and make the time for it whenever possible. A lot simpler than I thought it would be. Ghost Hand from Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, all that kind of stuff. There's the realistic Tiefers, ghoulish pointy face, the claws that warranted my attention as a younger guy. Cool. Well, that did not take that long at all. Well, continuing on, let's see what we have in our backlog here. What other things could we sculpt with the time that's given to us? There's an interesting, what was it, kind of a spike in themed requests that I got a while back, where I was asked to make all of these HoloLive VTubers. Obviously there's other VTuber franchises and private groups as well, but I am curious as to see what more people would come into this. There's one, there's a couple, but I want to obviously dedicate the rest of this to anime girls. The Elizabeth Rose, there was this other one, Silent something. Nevertheless, there's a lot of people that are into that stuff. Maybe I can knock this one out while we're here. Let's see, Sylent Bell with a Y. Let's do her. She's got a set full body jacket and a dragon tail. That would be simple enough. Thank you, Ace the Goober. I love your comments and hope that these videos are a blessing to you. Note, for those of you just joining us again, this is our first live, so we're going to see if this ends up working out. This is something we can be more consistent with. Open requests, so if there's anything that you want to see made, the chat box is open. But we've done so far. We started with Cinderella in her dress. We continued with, not to be outdone, the Archon Skin of Ra from Smite 2. We got Luci from Disenchantment. And we got Dead Hand, I don't know, from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So either I'm going to go with Sylent Bell's VTuber model, or by all means, I will keep an eye on your comments and see if there's anything specific you want. And note as well, multiple requests are welcome. I'm just going to be sculpting here for the next hour. We're going to cap it off at 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, but that will be possible. Oh yeah, questions are welcome as well. Where do you keep your foil sculptures? I either recycle them or I give them away. I don't tend to keep them around unless it's something that has some sort of sentimental value to me, and that's gone bye-bye as of recently. I think the only 3 or so foil sculptures, I have one in my office here of a character from Warhammer. Let me reach over and see if I can grab it. Oh. It was a project I did on my own time to kind of pass by myself. I did a YouTube short putting a post of her. Her name's Janetta Kroll, if you care. And the other one that I keep, for me anyway, is the patient bride sculpture that I did. It was a life-size woman holding a crown of thorns to her chest. And then my wife obviously has kept some of the sculptures I've made for her. And I also have the foil heart that she made for us on one of our dates. That is also sentimental to me, but that wasn't my foil sculpture. That was hers. So let's get to it. Sylent Bell. Let me know if that answers your question. This is a VTuber and requested by one of her fans. So, any tips for how to make these things are really cool. I do how to sculpt videos on occasion when, again, people specify. The best way to get good at anything is just to start. You're going to find your own kind of style and format, and if you work with foil, or if you work with clay, or if you work with digital art or physical drawing, that kind of stuff, you basically get good by allowing yourself to be terrible at first, and then that'll happen less and less the more and more you do it. So the kind of people I'd say who, and this is again coming from someone whose job is public speaking, you get good at speaking by having a few bad speaking incidents and then getting more and more. You win more debates by being willing to lose a few and be motivated to study next time so that it doesn't happen again. Those are the kind of tips I would give to anyone who's trying to get good at something, is give themselves the grace to fail at it a few times until, of course, they continue to have fun with it. And naturally, the talent and the hard work coincide, because as the saying goes, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So if you have hard work but no talent, you can get just as good as the person who has talent and works hard, and you'll certainly surpass those who have talent but don't work hard at it. That would be my advice, Ace the Goober. And note that it will not offend or insult me if you take this on as your own medium or start your own channel trying to practice. I will warn you, though, the internet is a very silly place. I get way more abuse than I do compliments, and certainly had my share of this early on. I've done more than just this, the Foil Guy channel. The first one I had to take down because of all of the abusive and evil people, including some threats, actually, when I got into the kind of mediums that attracted the wrong kind of people. So that's something to be aware of as well, but that's the internet. And also noting, it's just some kind of websites that maybe I would avoid. I did a lot of stuff on Reddit for a while, but as you know, Reddit mods are not the most stable of people and not put in positions of power because they're qualified. Been banned and blocked from way too many channels for not justifiable reasons. Discord obviously is exclusive to certain patterns, and you're going to find a lot of interesting characters in that regard as well. But no, by all means, the most important thing when it comes to developing a talent isn't to just abandon something when it doesn't work for you. There's people that can do way better things than I can because they've focused on them. And the most important thing, I think, is to lean into where your strengths are, not to necessarily diversify your portfolio until you've mastered something. Then you can kind of work out from it. So if you're doing digital, traditional 3D cardboard things, I'd say lean into that. My thing's foil because that's just what I happen to be most comfortable with. If you have experience working with cardboard, you know that medium, you know that material, you know how to accomplish wonders with it, then lean into it. Become the best cardboard sculptor that you can. Build a platform off of that. That's what I would recommend for you. Not to say that I'm being greedy about the foil, but I tend to do it again because it's affordable and a very forgiving medium, I might add. Very easy to mess around with because, again, empathy to people who do stuff like oil and acrylic. I know that oil painting is not a cheap hobby. Definitely definitely have to be careful, not wasting material and not a lot of room and opportunity to experiment with those things. That's why I prefer foil again, because you mess it up, you can either just reuse it or recycle it, and none's the wiser, and some might even benefit. So yeah, you know if they answered your question, Ace. Boy, Sylent Bell. Curious about the character's design. It seems like she's not as well exaggerated in her anatomy as most characters in her ilk. Yeah, empathy, Ace. Buying new canvas and paint and stuff, it adds up, don't it? Well, if you're looking for a cheaper medium, definitely can recommend this one. But if you've also mastered the art of humility, being able to be correctable regarding your own standards, then by all means, if you note techniques, what I usually do when I'm asked to teach at like summer camps and stuff is I teach them how to fold, I teach them how to press, and I teach them how to pinch. I summarize that by saying you attach without glue, you cut without scissors, and of course you turn two-dimensional objects into three-dimensional objects. If you can do that, then essentially I've taught you how to hold a pencil. If you know how to do that, then in theory you could draw anything. The rest is just time and experience. But that, obviously, speaking from someone who has over 20 years of experience with this medium, so that's how you get good with anything, I suppose. Either that or you just never took a hint and you continued to be bad about it. But that's also another side effect of being not correctable. Oh, yeah, there's no, but yeah, I was curious about Sylent Bell. I'm obviously fine with sculpting most things. The only standard that I have, or rule, for taking requests that the sculpture in of itself isn't inappropriate, and sometimes the anime characters that I get sent do cross that line, not just because of the source material being borderline for immature audiences only, but also because it's just kind of the way it is with Hololive. They don't even intend to do it. There's a, I think I only follow one VTuber, and I don't really watch her streams anyway. I'm just amused by the concept after I got recommended to do a sculpture of her model. But the the exaggerated mammary glands and so forth make it uncomfortable for me. But since everyone's coming at this from their own article and mindset, I'm only speaking of my own sensitivities. I want to be respectful. Noting that mindset as well, making this acceptable for all ages is also half that key. But I digress. Wonder if Sylent Bell is worth looking into, because the character seems cute. Although I guess that's the 80% of the assumed point in most anime characters' designs. You never know about an individual. If anyone here is a fan of her, let me know if you know anything. Always nice to know little details and learn about people in the digosphere that aren't a hindrance to the lives of those around them. We would all aspire to be. But nonetheless, trolls are trolls. I think, yeah, Hololive shorts never end up being a positive influence on my Instagram feed, so I have to be careful, because usually their fan art ends up taking over, and then I just have to set the computer down for a while. Computer or phone. Whichever. So far, everyone. But yeah, no, questions also welcomed. But purpose of broadcast is for foil requests. By all means, even as I'm sculpting, let me know what you would like to see made. We've got 49 minutes a lot can be done in that time period. As we see at the time of this, so we're an hour and 15 minutes in. It's done 1, 2, 3, 4. On our 5th sculpture now. So since I usually do these in batches of 8 to 10, I think that would be a good metric. Maybe that's the goal, is just, hey, we're going to do a live stream, got 10 sculptures, grab a slot while you can. We will see. It's the first time doing this, so working and hardly. Now, the saying is working hard or hardly working, but if you love what you do, it's not work, right? Hopefully responded to and sharing another metaphor that a shared grief is half a grief, a shared joy is twice a joy. I don't know what grief would be inflicted by these sculptures unless set for the comments or negative association, but we're working on it. Thomas Connor says, just wanted to let you know I appreciate your art. Well, I appreciate your comment, Thomas. Thank you very much for the kind words. Never take for granted the fact that people can choose to be kind on the internet. My usual pattern and code of conduct is, if you have something to say to me, the first chance is to be kind by default, or at least neutral and respectful. But if the bad attitude and abuse continues, then the second comment will be regarding the matching of their tone, which they usually don't like, and hopefully they will take a hint. They rarely do. But the third line will, of course, be the third strike, you're out. And I'd say that that's setting good boundaries with people. But hey, so far we've had very positive interactions, and not in a place yet where we need moderators, which I guess is the case for most of those who are engaging in live streams for the first time. Interesting too to see the second wave of viewership, whether or not that ends up being something people watch more after the fact than during. Still, I appreciate all of you who are choosing to be here for the main event, and that will, of course, be those who are given priority on what is being sculpted. Those of you who are just joining us, this live stream's purpose and goal is to take foil requests openly for the duration of the time set aside, which today is going to be about 2 hours. We will be logging off at 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, but that will be our metric. If you have any requests, there's no set theme or requirement. The only rule is that it is appropriate for all audiences in the sculpture of itself. If you have something that's from something suggestive, but the character itself is modest, then I will not mind. I won't have negative association with the, say, inappropriate source material, but I wouldn't have a problem if the sculpture itself is not appropriate for all ages. Also note as well, if I have done a sculpture before, there is nothing wrong with you requesting to see it being made in this format. I'd be happy to resculpt it. And also note as well that the purpose of the broadcast is just that, to answer your guys' requests. So don't think that you have to limit yourselves as far as like, oh, I've already made a request or something. These will be first come, first serve. So by all means, feel free to leave requests. Could you do Edgar from Electric Dreams after this one? Absolutely, Ace. I'd be happy to do that. I'll look him up here once I need to rest my hands a little bit. Let's see about this character's design here. The dragon tail gives me a hint, but in like the ice theme for the white hair, but the horns too, but the ears are what's interesting to me. Nonetheless, curious what the character itself is based on. Always set for theatrics. I know the main ones. There's the Chicken Girl. There's the Grim Reaper Girl. There's that Shark Girl, but she retired, I think. I get all this stuff from the junior hires that I teach, so cross-reference is usually limited unless we get on our ADD vacations during class. Still, learning about this from you guys too will obviously expand the resume. So I always like to know what I'm talking about, and that's by being in the agora, so to speak, those who are in the city. Are you guys familiar with the term agoraphobia, fear of public places? It's because in the ancient Greek culture, the agora was the public setting. Nowadays, they call the internet the agora because that's just where you happen to find people. But seems like this will be sufficient. So, those of you who are familiar, that is the VTuber model for Sylent Bell. Let's see, yeah. Your little pointies, her dragon tail, and her modest jacket, which I admire in a profession that tends to appeal to the lesser nature of man. All right, so let me look this up, get my little reference off to the side here. This is Edgar from Edgar Allan Poe. I don't think you want that. Electric Dreams. There we go. So would that be the computer Lego looking guy? Let me see here. Give me as many details as you can. That's interesting. The first link that comes up is Sexypedia, which I hesitate to click on, but nonetheless. So let's see here. So just basically it looks like a computer screen with a Lego figurehead on it. Is that what you are referring to there, Ace? Not, let me know and I can look up for something else. Are you specifically looking for the one that, let me know if me turning my head away is diminishing it, the one on the cover where it's got the little horn and bifurcated tail and all that stuff? He's the computer? Okay, so we'll just go with the more simpler approach. Edgar. Why is it a romance? 1984, that's fascinating to me. Whichever is more fun. No, remember that you're the one making the request. I want to make sure this is what you want. I'll start with the computer, and if you want the horn and the tails, let me know. All right then. Well, with that said, what is Electric Dreams about, Ace? This looks very amusing to me. Definitely not a Lego movie. It was made in the 80s. Yeah. Set theme around artificial intelligence or something. Was it Joaquin Phoenix's Her before they could get social media on board with it? Tell me about it. What is it you like about it? Let's see here. Let's see, at least on the reference here. Some architect named Miles moves into a new apartment and also needs to develop a brick. What's a brick? It suggested an electric calendar, but ends up buying a computer. I'm getting the summary here in the comment section, so pardon me for various pauses and so forth. Also, his neighbor Madeline. Hello, plan. Interesting. The 80s were a very interesting time. They produced a lot of fun films, but it's probably because there was an abundance of other substances that awakened mindsets that shouldn't be going into the public sphere. The thing that I hate the most about that time period is the abuse of the actors, but nothing new there. Tries to hack into his architecture boss's computer remotely. Computer catches on fire, spills champagne, and it turns sentient. Oh, so it's like Spark and Wally, huh? That's fun. The origin story of the sentient AI. Artificial intelligence. This is an assumption that actual intelligence needed an alternative. It's amusing when you have to make details on a flat surface because it only comes out with certain angles of the light, and you kind of have to pick and choose when these end up on the screen. Still, I'm sure most would say they compete for Madeline. Wow, so it's like a love triangle between what is, or a rivalry between a fake person and a failing person. That's amusing. Yeah, the movie is a lot about the computer and the ROM. That's hilarious. I guarantee you, I would never have known this exists. Oh boy, let's see here. Sometimes for like little dots and stuff, they just jab it with a pen. Can you see the frowny face there? Not really too much to the sentient Lego brick, but he is cute. Sounds like a Disney Channel original movie, just without the romance aspect to it. Yep. Can't fault them for being productive, despite likely being under the influence to write these things. Nonetheless. There we go. A little bit of a backdrop here. Here we go. That is Edgar, in theory. Oh no. I won't spoil it for everyone, but I appreciate the willingness to dive through the material for us. So, Edgar, thank you for the request, Ace. We'll note that as one of our options. Watched it like 7 times. Yeah, I definitely can add a list of movies that would fit into that purview for myself. Let's see here. Now, I did get a request for the classical painting, The Birth of Venus, and obviously set request for Modesty Drapes. That one may take some time. It's the pretty lady being born out of the shell. If not, there's plenty of stuff that obviously we can get into. You guys wanting to kind of alternate between the simple and the complex, or do you guys have something else that you would like to see made? Because again, we got time, another half hour, so in theory we could make 1 or 2 more sculptures, maybe 3 if they're easy. The Archon one definitely took up time, but I was set worth it. For those of you just joining us, first Foil Guy stream. This is open request, so if you want to see anything made out of foil, this is the time for it. Obviously, the channel's always free for setting those requests, and the purpose of it is individual, so don't think that you have to appeal to as many people. Note specifics for what you want to see. If you Want to know the standards? The only rule is that they're appropriate for all ages in the sculpture of itself. If it comes from something that may be for more mature audiences, as long as the character is properly attired, that is all that we care about. And it's not drawing attention to genitalia or violence or anything that would be uncomfortable showing to a child. At least the right kind of person would want to show that to a child. There was another one. That one was made more recently. We also have some Pokemon requests to catch up on, if that's interesting to anybody. Shaman, Zapdos. Anyone have a favorite Pokemon they'd like to see? We started with the Disney princess. Oh, we got one here. Thomas wants, I'd like to request Crypto from Destroy All Humans. No rush on the queue. Yeah, no, you're at the top of the queue, Thomas. Thank you for the request. Crypto. Destroy All Humans. It's the name of a game, not a call to action. The alien-looking guy. Do you want him with the backpack or just the laser gun? Tractor to foil as a medium seems accessible. Yeah, that's definitely the main appeal there, Thomas. It's a very forgiving medium. It's a very cheap and easy to access medium, and the more that you get used to it, just like any other medium, this is the one that will accommodate a lot more long-term investment. I would recommend it, obviously, because of my preference, but if you have a style you're already accommodating to, like I've requested before, stick that. Backpack out makes for a much more interesting silhouette, I think. Awesome. So, Destroy All Humans, Crypto, also known as Cryptosporidium. Cryptosporidium. Nonetheless, here we go. Never played the game, but I've definitely heard a lot about it. Is it fun? Apart from the morbid association of exterminating your own race, kind of a lived out Mars attacks kind of deal. Think so? Yeah. I'm enjoying this. The problem that I have with most video games is I just, like, you know, the whole Call of Duty lobby stereotype, the multiplayer aspect of if you're not an expert at the game by the time that it's been out for so long, then you feel like you're dragging people down for shared objectives. It's kind of what keeps me from getting into stuff like Team Fortress or any of the more cooperative stuff like Left 4 Dead. I know that some people are going to be gracious, but most are not. And, you know, I'm a very golden retriever like personality. I hate it when I'm not pleasing people. Obviously, I've learned to grow out of that so that I'm not manipulated by any means. But the issue is if I don't have to be an inconvenience to somebody, and I choose not to. The real key feature that I think I try to go for, is that single player games mean I learn at my pace, I stay at my pace, I'm the only one affected by my failures, that sort of thing. Battlefield is a multiplayer game. Yeah. Yeah, no contributing to the team without feeling pressured. I'm the opposite. I get the time and opportunity to play video games very inconsistently. So even in the stuff that I'm doing fairly regularly, it's kind of hit or miss. So when I am able to step on a learning curve, and even for like single player aspects, that's much more what I prefer. Battlefield, though, it's obviously comparable to Call of Duty in thematics. Is there any like major differences in gameplay or storyline? Never gotten too much into the war aspect. Military is something that I really love on principle because of all the members of my family that have enlisted. My best friend in the whole world is currently enlisted. All the friends that I seek out, I try to seek company with war veterans because they do not have to be asked to tell you exactly what they think. And I appreciate honest abuse over. It's like that proverb: the blows of a friend are faithful, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. It's better to know exactly where you stand with people and grow from there than be the kind of person that just doesn't know where people actually stand with you. Another sign of me being a guy, I guess. But the whole military aspect, I tend to more coordinate in strategy games than in actual boots on the ground fight stuff. Although I guess Star Wars Battlefront 2 counts. That's pretty much the only one that I would note, and that's in the 2005 and in the more recent edition. Nonetheless, I looking for the foil guy on the lobbies and so forth. You probably won't find me doing streaming live streams. I'll just stick to the foil. That's what you're all here for, after all. Still, there's campaign characters or unique kinds of firearms and stuff that would always make for fun sculpting. Although it would be interesting to just say, like, I have a request specifically from Battlefield 2, and then it just any generic soldier attire in the United States or the Russians. That would be amusing. It's like, okay, that might help with the search engine, but why specify Battlefield? Why not just say a Navy SEAL with an M4? I don't know. Always get so complicated. Got his big cranium here. And also is funny, speaking of aliens, get a lot of people asking questions in my real life day job about this. And we had questions about Steven Spielberg's movie. I don't even remember the name of it right now. But people were getting upset because Spielberg allegedly in an interview said that it's going to kind of replace the church. And people, I mean, obviously, the guy's hyping up his movie far beyond what he deserves, but he was taken out of context to mean that this movie's designed and intended for people to abandon belief in God. And we clarified for people that that was not the case, but still. Hubris. Hubris is the slayer of kings. Basically, the recurring lesson in most Greek and Roman mythologies. There was even a specific job. One of the Roman generals, when he'd have like a victory parade or something, their culture took that moral lesson so seriously that when they would, be cheering the general's name for his victories and stuff, they would specifically have a slave on hand to tell him glory is fleeting, obviously in Latin, but it is amusing to me that when you see people kind of build themselves up, especially in the day where most people just don't bother with modern movies anymore, this guy is kind of building himself up. They call it tooting your own horn. Your own brass section and all that kind of stuff. It's just funny to see someone build themselves up, because then it's not going to be long before they fall down. Still, note from plenty of directors that they definitely had their winners, but they're only remembered for their failures. And that is tragic. One artist to another. Still. All right, getting this. Yeah, sounds like the Beatles being misquoted, saying that they're bigger than Jesus. Yeah, I remember that too. Still, John Lennon and his posse did not need any favors antagonizing people from a traditional background. However, truth matters, so all the things to fault them for. There's actually an amusing meme that I saw recently. Here is Cryptosporidium. Make sure that that's centered here and you guys can see all the details. Very nice. Is that acceptable to you guys? Thank you for the request, Thomas. His eyebrows a little bit more junction. No, someone shared. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ace. Thank you very much, Thomas. There was a meme that was shared with me that noted the site of John Lennon's death, and then he says, you know, he was born in this place, and then he died at the site of John Lennon's assassination. That's literally what the place is called. But someone left a comment saying, "Why would he ever go there?" And I found that hilarious. I think it's self-aware absurdism and satire. All right. So let's see here. Crypto Cinderella in her dress. We got the Archon Skin from Smite 2 for the Egyptian god Ra. We've got Luci from Disenchantment. Got Death's Hand or Dead Hand from Ocarina of Time. We've got the VTuber model for Sylent Bell with a Y. We've got little Edgar computer. And we've got Destroy All Humans Alien Edgar with these laser bonus points if you catch that reference. All right. Ace, another question here. I think Ulric from Reverse 1999 would look to open foil. If I can request twice, you can request as many times as you want. Our only limit here is the time. Obviously, we get more requests, then we'll make sure that everyone, as much as possible, gets the opportunity to throw it in. But at this time, no, do not worry about it, Ace. Ulric from Reverse 1999. Let's see here. Oh, that is fun. The guy with the globe-looking head. All right, let's get that up here. The chibi version or the regular version? Which would you prefer? Either's cute. Ulric Reverse 1999. Regular? All right, cool. Let's get started then. What's regular 1999 all about? Is this a video game? Yeah, leather pants and stockings remind me of Yu-Gi-Oh characters for some reason. Although I'm probably more prone, I do collect the cards. I have a few of my older decks available for the students whenever we get some free time, but the probably more memorable exposure that I have to Yu-Gi-Oh is from the YouTube channel Little Karibo. He's still doing his parody series, redubbing and abridging the original Yu-Gi-Oh anime, and he's a very funny writer. Play the time, a Verton timekeeper, and you're looking for your mom. Well, that could have a nickel for every time I've been in that situation. Worker at a research company thing. He's a lead cartographer or cryptographer. He decrypts things. Cool. Well, thank you for the information. What's like there was a video game that had time travel aspects to it, not like just slowing time like Spyro the Eternal Night, but there was a video game that specifically used like going back in time to repair certain things or accelerating time to decay metals and stuff. Is it of that sort of ilk, or is it more like an adventure story where he's trying to find problems and resolve them like the Doctor Who series? So many side references.
And Bakura, we will have our revenge, and then we will take his leather pants.
Don't mind me, I'm just going nuts. I do kind of pride myself on being able to do his Yami Merrick voice. I guess regular Merrick. To this day, I don't know what kind of accent he was going for, but it is unique. Still have friends today that were former students of mine where I threw that in during a lesson. And oh, the teacher is cool. He knows little Kariba. Although I think the longest lasting friendships I've made were when I made a anime reference during one of the lessons. I quoted Soul Eater's Excalibur. Ooh, that kind of thing. Game mechanic is playing cards to beat enemies. Oh, okay. That has certainly shown its accessibility and value on mobile games for sure. Where it says channel card, he charges up this machine thing. It's ultimate attack to electrocute enemies too. Cool. Cool. Seems very narrative driven. These giant boots. I should say long boots. There's we're just bantering kind of set in here. There was a meme that was shared with me by a friend of mine. This guy is a giant banana python reaching for his microwave. Like, get away from my pizza rolls, you long accursed one. I'm still laughing about that. At the right above the camera, by the way, I have our little class mascot, Yuki. She's an albino corn snake. If I could pick her up right now and show you, I would, but she just ate yesterday, so she's very defensive, and I wouldn't want her to lose the mousey she enjoyed. Maybe she'll have a guest appearance sometime during the live stream. Really funny looking uniform, doesn't have to wear all that. It's the law of extra, you know. The rule of cool trumps all. You don't believe that's a thing, just look at Warhammer. It's not practical, but it looks good. So that's the C end on a suitcase. I want to make sure I get the details right on his charging up tool. You have activated my trap card. I play Pot of Greed. That's not what it does. That is what it does. I guarantee you after like 4 live streams, I'm just going to exasperate my schizophrenia to the point where it's just watching a train wreck or something. Enjoy it while it lasts, I suppose. Would be funny to watch, though. I would watch me going insane if I knew what was going on. That about right? Obviously can't do that little sparky bulb, but cool. All right, good. Oh, Thomas is building Warhammer models right now. What army are you assembling? Getting ready for 11th edition being released? I pre-ordered the new starter box set because I'm kind of like the lore keeper for all of my friend group. We don't like going to tournaments and just getting trounced on by all the professional players. See the previous issue regarding multiplayer games. But I do like accommodating my local friend group because they can be pretty chill. And I'm the one that works for a living, so I can accommodate all of the big rule books, codexes, and all that. And just a word and note in advance, if you want me to tell you what armies I play, that is a long list. I'm playing that game for a very long time. Building a castigator tank for your Sisters of Battle? Oh, awesome. Sisters are my favorite army. I like doing Bloody Rose because I basically play every army like World Eaters. Just charge. Go nuts. Melee all day. Castigator tanks were cool, though. Ooh. Always got to have partiality to your roots in The Exorcist. Those of you who aren't following along, these are the names of their war machines. Nuns with guns. Still, I've been asked to sculpt those things, and I am somewhat grateful for that because the amount of detail that they've done on the revamps of the models, the whole set organs and the stained glass and the cherubs and all that other nonsense, I would just be probably spending more time working on the torches on the side of the tank than I would on the treads. It'd be a nightmare. Which, by the way, is no dissuasion. If you want to see me make a castigator tank, I will be happy to. I'm just noting that I am grateful. I haven't had the chance to do that yet because that would be a big project to make detailed. And Warhammer fans tend to be the least gracious people. Remember the one I got the most abuse for was the boss at the end of Dawn of War 2, the big demon prince guy, Azariah Kairos. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I made that, and people were just, they weren't very nice. Let's just put it that way. Troll's gonna troll. What can you say? World Eaters Army too? Alright, skulls for the Skull Throne. Gotta be true to your roots, man. Super loyalist, super traitors. Although I guess that'd be word bearers, which I also play. I enjoyed the books up until recent developments, but now I just kind of have to stick to what's left of the lore. Also got my wife into it. She plays a Custodes army. Naturally didn't mind so much after all the controversy surrounding their political maneuvering. Did have a fun time, though, giving her the Themstodes, and in no sense of insecurity at all. Henry Cavill is one of her fictional crushes, so knowing he plays Custodes kind of helped me sell her on the product. She also has a Knight's Army now, too. I think the dome on the hat there can use a little bit more substance, but we're almost done. It's set for 10 minutes. Up on 2 hours, maybe we can... Oh, boy. Sparse 206, good morning. Big fan. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your kind words, Sparse. I always appreciate kind people allowing that aspect of their character to be a blessing to others. The same attitude I have towards these sculptures. Thank you very much for your compliment. World Eaters and Word Bearers will just have their refresh, so yeah, I understand. Gotta go for aesthetics. I like the refresh Custodes much more. 30K plastic, I mean. Yeah, the heads are definitely more prominent than the old ones that were kind of blockier, but I played the Sisters of Silence religiously, pun intended. And all the extra ones that came with the starter box sets, Talons of the Emperor and all that, I gave those over to friends or passed on to my wife. So when the new things came out, I was just thankful that their tanks were more affordable. Still, there was an easy way and there was a hard way they chose to contribute to the lore regarding just different colored heads, and they chose to upset more people than they had to, which, again, it's kind of the British way right now. How can we not make friends? Nevertheless, Ulric, that is acceptable. Sisters of Silence, yeah. Well, noting earlier the Sisters of Silence character here. We got the Joy Toy version, but it's one of the sculptures I'm more proud of. I think I'll hop off for now. Good night, TheFoilGuy in chat. Thank you for the requests, Ace. Thank you for blessing us with your positive attitude and giving us something to work around with. We appreciate having you here. Glad it was acceptable. Very nice. Okay. Let's see. We got about 5 minutes or so before we hit the 2-hour mark. I think we have time for one more. Anyone else have a request for something that we may be able to get done before we log off? This will be the last one for this sesh. Not going to commit to a time frame or anything, but next time that we do one of our live streams, it'll obviously just be dependent on when I have the free time to do so. This stream was accommodating because I finished a major project at work and had the hours to spare. But when more opportunities come up, that will obviously warrant more of these if they are positively responded to. If we end up just, going over 2 hours to only end up with like 10 views long term, then maybe not investing as much. But by all means, if this is something that's blessing you guys, that is the goal, purpose, and point. So share it around. We'll make the effort where it's appropriate. You did, this is from Sparse. You did a Dudunsparce for me years and years over Tumblr. Oh, yeah. Do you want Dudunsparce? Would you like a remake of Dudunsparce to close off our time together, or do you have another Pokemon in mind that we might be able to throw together in these last closing minutes? Dudunsparce? Sounds good. Let's do it. Let me look him up because I know he is simple, but therein lies the beauty. Dudunsparce. Here we go. Larry is the best. Those of you who don't play Pokemon, Larry's one of the characters that kind of showcased this new Dudunsparce, which is a Pokemon that looks like a drill scorpion with wings, which is, it sounds awesome, but this guy's really cute. I was also curious because, like with the Scarlet and Violet era and all the introductions and stuff, for new set evolution, Dudunsparce obviously is one of the more rarer ones that you look for, but he kind of gave, and this is in no way insulting him, kind of left much to be desired compared to the other ones like Annihilate, where, he just didn't really break the meta as far as it's concerned. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but not someone that you quake in fear at when someone sends it out. What are your thoughts? You forgot about him. Yeah, that kind of serves the point, doesn't it? What else it reminds me of is the design of that other one that kind of sets up like an array of soldiers. Is like they're the little orange guys that look like the helmeted dudes from Mega Man. Name's escaping me at the moment because I kind of skipped Sword and Shield. Phalanx, yes, that is it. I think Mega Phalanx is the funniest thing I have ever seen in my life, and I mean that in a totally positive way. There was 3 types of Mega Evolutions. There was the disappointments. There was the just walking memes like Starmie, and then there was the, well, that. Just You're not sure what you would have asked for, but it makes sense. Let's get them all organized, not into a row, but into a soldier, and that's your mega evolution. And I'm going, you know what? All right. the Star Me Patrick Star thing is a meme in of itself. I didn't necessarily have anything for or against it, but the Phalanx one, that made me laugh. Get his mouth open so that people can see his little fish goatee. And with that, we are right on time. Very, very good. Okay. Okay, how is that? Let me make sure I can see this on the stream too. Nice. Well, to a fellow Dudunsparce fan, much appreciated and a perfect place to end it. So let's recap. We started with Cinderella, as requested on our backlog. We continued with the Archon Skin from Smite 2. Then we got our first request from the live comments, Luci from Disenchantment. Got Death's Hand, or Dead Hand, from Ocarina of Time. We got the VTuber model, Sylent Bell, which I will do more research on after this because the character makes it seem nice. We have Edgar from 1980s. We have Crypto from Destroy All Humans. We've got this dapper gentleman Ulric from Reverse 1999. And last but certainly not least, Dudunsparce from Pokemon. So, with all that said, I thank all of you so much for joining me for this first live stream. I hope that it was a blessing to you. If there are anything that you would like to see, in the near future, feel free to leave requests regarding individual foil sculpture videos. If you'd like to do themed live streams, or if you'd like to see something being made in real time during a live stream, feel free to include that in the comments and requests. Always a pleasure to see you from the other social media platforms. Know that these are uploaded on Twitter, Tumblr, DeviantArt, Instagram, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. And with more opportunities in the future, we will be looking forward to engaging with each other in the near future. I have to get ready for round 4 here, but I thank you all for joining me. Until then, next time, God bless you.